everybody, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And today I have Francois and Michael over at Wanderland Agency. And without further ado, we'd love if you guys can introduce what you do over there with a quick elevator pitch.
Yeah, definitely. So at Wanderland, pretty much everything that we do is about understanding our clients' users so that we could best craft, the solutions that they need. We don't really like assumption. We like more so data. So, at the end of the day, everything that we do is about the users and their needs and build digital products based on that.
Excellent. So how did you guys get to this point in your career? Tell us more about your background together.
Yeah, I'll let Francois talk first.
Yeah, so actually at Wanderland, I'm more like the guy taking care of, everything related to UX, UI, and then web development. And actually, I always been passionate about web design in general. So I kind of studied that back in the time, web design at school. Love it, but didn't really like the code at that time. So I moved to marketing actually, and I really enjoy, doing marketing because it opened a lot of doors. And make me travel actually. So I moved to Australia, worked there for a bit for a company, a SaaS company at that time that was actually putting in relationship tradespeople and user to get quotes. And it was very interesting because they were doing traditional marketing, but also digital marketing, where I learned a lot about A/B testing and conversion rate optimization back at that time, like 10 or 12 years ago. So they was already doing that. So very interesting. And that's actually, what we are doing right now at Wanderland. So I did that there. And then I moved to Canada, work for a startup based in Toronto. This is actually how I met Michael. And over there, I was responsible to create contents for the brand, assisting the creative director, and then basically managing all the content we had on the website as well with Michael. This is how we met. I moved back to Belgium, work a bit there, and then COVID hits. I think that everyone went into that phase of self-reflection. So we were still in touch, friends, and we had that idea of creating an agency together to really combine, our passion, which is basically digital marketing, the beauty of design, but the psychology as well, because behind, the marketing, you have that psychology effect of influencing people, right? And then combining to design, that was just like the perfect match for me. So yeah, that's all. It all started.
That's a great point. Yeah, a lot of people think marketing is advertising, but it's just like a really small portion of it. Really, the fun part is creating the experiences, right? And a lot of that comes out through UX and a lot of the product design work that you guys get to do. So Michael, are you the business side, or how's the dynamics work over there?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit about my background. And one thing too, Francois has always been a creative person. I think one part of his story that he missed is like really early on, he loved designing things. And, similar to me, I always just wanted to tell a story. I've never been the person who actually designed or created. I just always had an idea or a story that I wanted to tell. So I felt really close into passion with movies. I just wanted to, whether it be an actor, director, or producer, I don't really know which one. I think I like the idea of it, but eventually I got the opportunity to work with a fantastic, director of photography, and learned a lot more of the storytelling behind a camera, and then translating scripts into visual storytelling pretty much. And then from there, I got into school, studied communications, business. So I got best of both worlds. I think I was really good at business, but I love the communications part. But even to that, I got the opportunity to create more things. I actually won a few awards in university for advertising, so creation of like content, commercial. Yeah, so it was really cool. So that kind of gave me an idea of what I wanted. I worked at an agency while I was towards the end of my university days, and I realized how much I hated it. So funny enough, started our own. But I think I learned some of the key factors about what I didn't want to do at an agency, and how I would operate if I did. And then after that, I went into tech. So that's where I got a bit of the background in technology. I got poached, which is where Francois and I started working at that startup together. And with him, we never, I never directly worked in marketing, but I was getting pulled into a lot of these initiatives and projects. And that's where we got a chance to work together. And I think we very quickly said, we could probably do this separately. And to Francois' point, COVID hit, I left. COVID hit, a bit of self-reflection happened, and we pinged each other and we're like, hey, if there's a time to do it, it's now, so might as well just give it a shot. And it's been pretty tough, right? So the business side, to your original question, it's not easy. Obviously, number one, you are trying to make revenue so that you could kind of keep existing, month over month. But yeah, I'm pretty traditionally just come from a business background, so I just figured I would take care of all the business operations, business development, growing the agency, client relationship management. Francois has been a fantastic partner because we've really just swam in our own lanes since we started, the company. We've never really overlapped. Now we're getting to a point where Francois is taking more of like the management seat, and so am I, and we're trying to work together and expanding the business more internationally. But yeah, it's been an interesting adventure so far, especially on the business development side.
Excellent. Well, so you guys have a lot of experience doing product design, and obviously working in a startup kind of puts you at the forefront of that early stage of a company where, maybe you're getting that getting to that MVP stage. I guess, what tips would you offer for startups out there or software product managers to get to that MVP stage when they're designing their products?
Yeah, I'll quickly touch base and I'll let Francois take over. It's interesting because I got the opportunity, and I still am. I'm advising for a couple of companies. One of them is a real estate marketing tech company. But the other thing too is Francois and I actually, with another partner, just launched a product ourselves. And we're also kind of going into the mindset of all the things that we're teaching our clients to do, we're doing it ourselves as well. So, it's quite interesting. But, when you're going to launch an MVP, I think there's two ways of looking at it. One, there's the data collection piece. And then two, there's the actual building of a core functional feature or product that solves a user need or a problem. There's two ways of going at it, right? There's identifying the problem, building the product, going out into market as quick as possible, and retrieving as much feedback as you possibly can to iterate, learn, and then optimize. Or there's the other way, which is maybe this more slower way, but safer, is going and doing that preliminary research, going to your ideal customer profile or your users, and then figuring out exactly what it is that they need and what those needs and pain points are. That actually gives you that roadmap to building a product that fits that user problem or that user need. So we look at it in those two different, angles, but it really depends on the business objectives and what they're trying to achieve in a certain time period.
Yeah, that's a great point. It all comes back to, building something that actually helps people, right? And I think a lot of times people kind of run away from that, and they get so obsessed with building the solution and their ability to create tech that they run away from the problem and they forget about why they're in business in the first place.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the first things you should think about, it's really, okay, what kind of real problem user you try to solve first, and then focus on the core functionality and making sure that, with your product, you make the experience intuitive and easy for the user to use your product and get feedback as soon as possible. So to take the first approach that Michael was just explaining, that's how I like to approach things, so that you get real user data and you can actually ideate based on those feedbacks, and then test out a few new things, and then again it's a circle back and you keep growing, and that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of a crawl, walk, run approach, right? And it's so easy to just start adding on new features, but the more you add to it, the more it bloats the product, and the further you get away from the core solution you're trying to provide to people. But if you start small and you kind of figure out what that the basic version of that, and that's the whole concept of MVP, and deliver that to people. Of course, yes, they want other features, they'll ask for those later, but you got to solve that core problem first before you start adding a bunch of other things to complexify the product.
And an important question that you could ask yourself too, as a product designer or even just an entrepreneur trying to start a company, is when you're designing something, or whether it's a solution or just a feature, are you doing it based on assumption? Or are you doing it based on facts? And I think very quickly, when you ask that question to yourself, you could identify whether you're heading in the right direction, or maybe you should be focusing on something else, or at least retrieving some more data to turn assumption into fact, right? And we have these conversations oftentimes with our clients. We're having these conversations right now, right? Like the product that we created, and I'm going to name drop it. It's called Reads, REEEADS. .io. It's a really interesting product to go look at, because you get to go on an adventure with us as we're kind of like doing the exact same thing. And we've had this conversation even this morning, right? It's like, we want to do something. I'm like, is it assumptive? Like, are we making an assumption, or are we going to collect the feedback to actually prove what it is that we want to move forward with, right? So I think those two questions are critical to ask yourself whenever you are, doing anything from solving a problem through design or creating a new feature.
How do you avoid those distractions, I guess, with, you'll get a lot of people's opinions, right? And you got to, really cut through all the noise to figure out, this is our shining light. This is, the direction that we need to go here. And this data supports it. Whereas this stuff is just, distracting for us. Cause a lot of customers might even have opinions. They might ask for like a specific feature. But how can an entrepreneur kind of avoid some of the noise and really discern which feedback they should really focus on?
I hate to simplify it because it's like, it's not that easy. But just like any business, you have to have an objective. And I think to make it really simple, you have to lay out your short-term objective and lay out your long-term objective. And whenever you're doing something, again, just like you're asking yourself the factual versus assumptive, you also have to ask yourself, if whatever it is that we're doing, are we going towards that short-term objective? Because if you're not, then that's when you start kind of like streaming away, going into a different tangent, which at that point there, you need to kind of collect yourself and be like, okay, well, we're trying to do this, but in reality, I have to refocus on this. So that would probably be the simple answer to that question.
So you're saying there's kind of a difference between, having your vision, but then looking at your next step, right? If you're not watching where you're going, you're going to trip over yourself. So a lot of people might be too focused on the vision, and they might forget, the small steps that it actually takes to get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like trying to go to a coffee shop, looking at your phone and not paying attention. You end up at a grocery store, right? It's like two different.
Totally. Or run into a wall, especially here in New York.
Or run into a wall, which happens more often than that. So
absolutely. So a user experience is at the core of every product, right? And that's the fun part about marketing. So I guess, why is user experience so crucial for software products, and what does a great user experience look like?
Go ahead.
I would say a great user experience, it's a user that you don't have like any bad memory about it. It's so fluent, it's so easy that it seems intuitive. I mean, when you go on a mobile app, a SaaS product, or even a website, searching for specific information or a call to action doesn't seem like blurry. You know exactly what to do, because before that you study your audience, you put in place user journey, user flow, and you pretty much build a plan for your user to achieve the goal you want them to do on your product, right? And for the user, it doesn't feel like, sorry for the words, but pain in the ass. There is no frustration, no pain point. And that's to me, that's crucial for user experience. And user experience, we were talking about that with Michael this morning before that call. User experience is actually everywhere. We think about user experience for a digital product, but it's everywhere. We're talking about that concept. Even, for example, you are in a building and you want to cross a door, and you have that label, telling you to pull or how do you say in English? The other one, push. Exactly. Pull or push, right?
That's always
that's basically.
That's one of the biggest problems in life people try to solve every day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's everywhere, and you try. It's really about trying to remove any friction and pain point you have with the user, so that it's seamless for them. That's what I would say.
Awesome. I guess, what other tips do you have around that? I mean, obviously, like, messaging's key, reducing steps in the process. Anything else that you would suggest more tactical for developing a good UX?
So the first things you should be doing, I think it's doing like primary research, secondary research. So maybe if you have the budget, doing like conduct interview with your user, doing surveys. Or if you have less budget, we have secondary research that allow you to basically, you can find information in books, but you can also about your industry, about your user, but you can find information online as well. And based on that, it seems like logic, but you basically create your barrier personas, and you identify your the pain point they might have, the friction they might go into, and based on that, you try to put your shoes your feet, into their shoes, and this is how you start designing the experience, because you have all this information in mind, and then it seems like more obvious, because you're not doing something, you're not doing a product for yourself, but you're doing a product for your user, for your audience.
Yeah, and a more tactical thing, sorry, just to add to what Francois was saying, in terms of primary research, I mean, user testing is probably the number one way of figuring out how complex your product is, if it is complex at all. Like watching somebody do something when you give them one task without giving them any other direction to say, I need you to do this, it's quite eye-opening, because it gives you so much more insight into what, and it removes bias, right, entirely. Because for you, it's like, I built this product, I know how it works, this is how I believe people are gonna, navigate through it. But user testing actually immediately counters that, right? Or it proves you right. So I would say that's a very tactical way of also, implementing some way of, whether optimizing user experience or figuring out some of the roadblocks that are in your product.
Yeah, that's a great point there. So I guess self-service is kind of a big topic that's, becoming more and more prevalent in the industry because of great user experiences. A lot of people don't want to get on the phone with the salesperson first. They just want to do it themselves. A lot of, users these days, or potential customers, are, educating themselves in many ways. And they actually prefer that rather than getting sold something people want to buy. So I guess, what's the importance of self-service when it comes to today's SaaS website designs?
Yeah, I think this is where the psychology Francois was talking about is it's fun, right? We were talking about this as well multiple times. Even our clients, we have a few of them that are self-serve and others are not. I think there's two topics, right? There's the sales automation process of it, which is the self-serve model, where you're really having zero touch point with the client. You're allowing them to go seek the information that they need on your website through obviously knowledge base, help articles, AI chat functionality, which is a low-hanging fruit for a lot of people. It's a lot cheaper now to integrate. But self-serve is a critical point, I think, in businesses to succeed. However, the one thing that we would say is, aside from the sales stuff, the knowledge base, the information you provide, the customized and personalized user experiences that are built on a site to convert, you need to have, to a certain degree, a human touch point. One of the biggest things that I think anyone would agree on, and Francois and I, we go through this oftentimes, and we talk about bad experiences, because again, this is the world that we're in, is when you have a bad experience and you're seeking human attention, and it's not necessarily, I need you to talk to me because I want you to validate how I feel. Sometimes it is that, sometimes you don't find the information you're looking for. Maybe the knowledge base isn't as robust as they wanted it to, or maybe the product isn't as advanced as they thought it was, and there's a specific element of help or assistance or technical support that isn't necessarily there. There has to be a human interaction. And the important critical thing I would say is, when that interaction needs to occur, is what level or degree of quality is it going to be, because people will remember that. Self-serve is critical. It does optimize a business. It does actually increase revenue because it reduces operational costs. And I think, we're in a world where people want instant gratification, but we can't forget the other part of it, which is maybe the 10%, but the 10% that really matters is there needs to be some form of human interaction available to clients. That's my personal view on it. I'm not going to back, 100%. I'm sure Francois has some additional stuff to add there.
No, I totally agree with you. And again, we're talking about that, and it's, sometimes can be frustrating as well, because, like self-serve really empower user, to find the answer themselves. But again, to Michael's point, sometimes when you struggle with some things and you need that human touch, it can be challenging to find it, because obviously you want to reduce your operational cost. And then with the increase and the growth of AI as well, it's very tempting, to make automation everywhere. But I think that company will succeed by actually finding the right mix between those new technologies and keeping that human touch, to really, to really help and add the support the user needs when needed. Because people remember that exceptional customer service and will advocate for you in the future, because a customer that loves the experience with your brand, your product, will most likely recommend you to their friends. So it's more like customer for you, right? So finding that right mix, to me, that's funny. We debate about that, Michael and I, because it's really finding the sweet spot between technology and human touch. And I feel that when you feel you get that sweet spot, this is where you start to get like more people using your product, but gaining more like share market. That's how you say it.
More net promoters too, right? People that are excited
exactly.
about the product, they tell other people about it. Nobody likes a dead end, right? And a good UX would be like almost like an invisible hand guiding you through the process. But if you need help, there should be help readily available right there. So you know that there's an out. There's no like this, none of this dead end feel. And if there is any sort of mental friction, a lot of people forget. Friction is many things. It could be the amount of effort and clicks to get to a certain page that you want to get to, or it could also be the mental cognitive load that you have to kind of figure out how to sign up for this thing or even use it. So having that human touch, instantly available right there, it does give people that out if they need it. And it does provide a great customer experience, which can turn people into advocates for your product.
Yeah, and it's definitely what you want, it's always tied up to that great customer experience, user experience. And I'm speaking about that because I had actually frustration with a few products like a few weeks ago. And when you have like that bad experience, that's not something you wanna talk about and recommend to people, definitely. So it's just like real life situation. Just
people want to look good for the recommendations.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So conversion optimization is a big part of this onboarding UX, just a part of UX in general. How can you improve conversion optimization as you go forward? Obviously, the product that you start with, maybe an MVP, might not be fully optimized, but what steps can you take as you go along and grow your company to improve that?
Yeah, I would say there's two ways of looking at optimization. So conversion optimization is usually, top of funnel, unless you're converting directly on your platform for whatever purpose. And then there's the other one, which is the UX optimization piece, which is really, I think in this case here, what most people want to focus on. It's okay, well, user testing provides you the ability to do UX optimization. User surveying on your platform allows you to do that as well. So, I would say that from a product growth standpoint or scalability is really focusing on the UX optimization piece. And all of that is backed by retrieving data, doing user interviews, interacting with your users in some capacity or way. Then when you look at the conversion optimization piece, and Francois and I, funny enough, when we first started kind of offering it to our clients, we were a bit unsure, purely because we're like, well, how do we show or how do we prove success? I think oftentimes with the conversion rate optimization, people immediately attribute it to dollar value. It's like, okay, well, yes, ultimately that's what you're trying to get to. But with conversion optimization, the main focus is identifying what are your main conversion points, right? Oftentimes it's a contact us form. It's not necessarily a free trial subscription, or it may be a webinar sign up, right? And it's not necessarily the other two that I mentioned. So it's figuring out what that looks like and then doing everything you can in the user journey to create micro conversions that lead to those major conversions. And that's really how conversion rate optimization allows you to grow, your business. So, the first time we did it was 3 years ago with our longest client that we still have till this day. And we hope to keep them until forever, and because they're fantastic. And the way that we did it for them was, again, very plainly, what's your company objective? Once they laid out their quarterly objective, we said, okay, well, here's how we're going to help you get there, because we know that this conversion point is really what translates to meeting that company objective. In this case here, it's an increase in free trial signups. Yeah. Then when you kind of look at it that way, then you just figure out, okay, well, what are all the angles and different paths and user interactions that will lead them to that point? And everything you do in that funnel is to just optimize until they convert. And that takes time. It takes a lot of data, right? And it's ensuring that you have the right data capture methods in place to go and enough traffic. Actually, that's probably the most important part is the traffic piece. If you don't have enough traffic, your sample size is too small. Then you're making again assumptions based on data, but very low data. But I think again, it's such a loaded question.
We're talking about MVP and so on. And that's one point with the conversion rate optimization. And advice we could give as well. It's before you even think about, even think about doing conversion rate optimization, what you should be gathering, it's feedback from your audience through, like surveys, like what Michael was saying, or user interview, these kind of things, to improve the design, not based on assumption, but based on those feedback, right? And then conversion rate optimization can come after, once you actually build that traffic through traffic acquisition. Because if you don't have enough traffic on pages, it doesn't make sense to try experiment and do like A/B testing, because you won't get valuable result. So yeah, it's so you should not invest your money into that if you don't. Not at that stage yet. Yeah.
But if you can, you should. And obviously, A/B testing, multivariate testing, URL splitting, all these different things are like the tactics of conversion rate are 100% worth it, and it's the #1 way of growing your conversions.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of times you might find like it's these small little actions that people take that will lead to the big conversion that you want later. Like if they perform like a certain task, like connecting a bank account or something like that, that's a big indicator that they might be, they're a high quality sales qualified lead. So, identifying what those, like you said, micro conversions are, and then trying to get more of those micro conversions to happen at a higher percentage for all of this traffic that's coming to your website will lead to that, the end goal of that conversion optimization that you're really looking for.
You got it.
Awesome. So how has UX evolved over the past few years? And where do you see it going from here?
I think it's going more into like data-driven, less static and dynamic. And then we saw a lot of personalization as well. So if you look at even like something that is obvious, the social media app, for example, you have more and more like content that is personalized to your use and what could interest you, right? And I think that it's going to increase even more with the AI. Right now, they are going like they're using an algorithm, but with the AI, it's going to be like even more powerful, because they will be able to even analyze furthermore the habits of user and what will interest them. And I think we're going really into that trend. So personalized experience, for like tailor-made experience for each user. That's really where I see UX going.
Yeah, and a lot of small things like micro animations, interactions, getting users to engage with platform, website, and whatever that is. And something to kind of go back is everything that we do is always led through UX research. And whenever we, let's say, build a website for our clients, oftentimes when they have multiple user personas, we always talk about building a different user journey for each user persona, because every single one of them has a different need and pain point that needs to be met. And I think that personalization piece, which is the major thing we would say to focus on, is really what's going to allow you to see more success time over time.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you could also learn a lot from what other products are doing, maybe if they're not even in your same industry, because generally consumers or businesses, the trends kind of evolve. Like how they interact with one product creates an expectation for how they want to interact with another product as well, even if you're in a different industry vertical. So it's important to pay attention to how their websites are building their user experiences, because you can grab some ideas from that and be a leader in your space by bringing in some of those great ideas over, because the customers over there, will expect them when they come to you.
Yeah. No, it creates habits. And then once those habits are like into users' brains, I would say, and they become like, like almost normalized. And then you want to mimic these kind of things on your own product. Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah, like social media. I mean, back in the day, you probably could have got away with just a feed and just seeing, random stuff in there. And the user would probably do more, searching to go to actually go to people's profiles to find the content they're looking for. Now with TikTok, for instance, they've done a really good job with their algorithm to really just kind of almost read your mind. And that's a great user experience, right? You log into the app and, people get hooked. I mean, not me in particular. I try to stay off it as much as possible, but a lot of people just get hooked on TikTok for hours, and it's because of that algorithm and sourcing the content that they actually want to see, just interpreting what they want.
Yeah,
it's a real hack, and you have that infinite scroll as well, so you cannot stop. So.
Yeah, doom scrolling. Yeah, social media is a different beast on its own. It could be an entire, ideological conversation that we could have, because, the way that they've done it, the purpose behind it, I would say be mindful in comparing your product to social media, because social media, the intent of what it was and what it's actually doing in consequence are two different things. And we have to be very mindful of, comparing to specifically media platforms like that. But again, we could go down a rabbit hole of having some pretty deep conversations about it. It's a powerful tool that could be misused, right? And I think that's one thing that's worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess what's one thing potential customers should know about Wanderland Agency and why they should pick your services today?
Yeah, one of the most important things that we talk about with, new prospects, current clients, just anybody in general, right? Everything we do is about knowledge transfer. So we want to make sure that we're providing as much knowledge as we possibly can to anybody. But when it comes to working with us, we really try to do our best effort in getting people to lead first with understanding users. And what we mean by that is, if you're creating a brand new product, and let's say the budget's not there, we totally understand that. But in your roadmap of product building and growth, you have to input to a certain degree a level of understanding users and analyzing that information, and then continuing to build your product. That is what we lead with no matter what. We always said it, we could design you a beautiful product, whatever it is. But if you really want it to be functional and you want to work with a company that focuses primarily on delivering a true solution to a problem that has been identified, then we're your partner, right? And that's one of the biggest things that we try to land with anybody we speak to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Collaboration is part of the core value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys are really passionate about the work you do too. I mean, that's rule number one when you're hiring somebody. If you hire people that are passionate about the work they do, they kind of motivate themselves, and those are the people you can really trust to do the job.
Yeah, we've had to function that way, considering, Francois is in Belgium, I'm in Toronto, in Canada, and our team is spread out everywhere. But yeah, I mean, I think passion drives a lot more, willingness to continue and do the work that we do. We don't really look at it as work, right? It's the projects are really, it's funny, you could call it passion projects, right? To a certain degree, and it takes time to get there. Like, don't get me wrong, we say yes to projects sometimes we shouldn't say yes to, but that's the nature of the business that we're in. But yeah, I would say ultimately we lead with passion in everything that we do, and we really genuinely empathetically care about people. And that's me personally, and it's the same thing with Francois.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one thing I would add in terms of more technical, it's the fact that even if we work specifically with a platform called Webflow, and we are actually certified by them, but we're not stick to one platform or tool. I think that's some things we have to keep in mind. It's, we look at, it's a collaboration. So we look into the business needs and objective, and we try to provide the best solution that works for them. So whether it's on Webflow or something else, or building a product from scratch, because at the end of the day, we think ahead, we look at the long-term objective, and we think about scalability as well. Because the worst things you want to have is build a product that doesn't allow your clients to grow. Yeah. When he needs to grow. And it is very important, because sometimes you go with agency and they specialize in this and that, and they work with specific tools, and maybe they tend to stick with the tools they know. And that's the issue, because, you're going to create frustration for your clients at the end of the day, because if it's built for your agency because it's easier for you to work that way, but not for the client, yeah,
that's not about what's doing convenient. It's about what's doing. It's about doing what's right.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. Yeah.
So, where can people learn more about your guys' company?
You could go on our website, wanderlandagency.com, or you could honestly just reach out to Francois and I personally. Find us on LinkedIn, shoot us a message, connect with us. That would probably be the best way of doing it. Again, we love chatting with people. I was just telling Francois, my days are pretty much filled in meetings. Some of them, are business development meetings, but oftentimes it's purely just people want to learn and understand not only what we do, but what options they have, and also just maybe get more of a knowledge transfer So I would say, yeah, reach out to us on LinkedIn. That's probably a good way of doing it, or, visit our website, follow us on LinkedIn. Any of those channels work quite well.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a great chatting with you guys. I mean, I'm a big fan of UX and a lot of the work that you guys do, and you guys seem, really passionate about it. So definitely seem like the right guys for the job there. So everybody definitely check them out, look them up on LinkedIn, go to their website. We also have them as a partner. We're a proud partner of theirs on NachoNacho's B2B SaaS and services marketplace. You can check them out today there too. There is a special, if you want to try these guys out, we have a 15% off custom development discount if you want to give these guys a try. These guys sound really passionate about the work they do. So definitely could recommend them to anybody. I mean, these guys know UX. So yeah, anyways, it's been great having you guys on today. And any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's try to be motivational here. Lead with your hearts. That's what I'm going to say.
There you go, people. If you walk away with one thing today.
There it is. No, but thanks, Andy. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Likewise, you too, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Cool. Hey.